Many years ago, we began sort of trading examples of dead celebrities who continued to contribute to the public sphere. Mm-hmm. And this is not just in TV commercials, but there's a whole field of necromarketing called necromarketing. And every year, Forbes magazine publishes a top earning dead celebrities list. So there's a whole kind of broad backdrop to the idea of posthumous production that we thought was really promising, because it seemed to go in it seemed to hold the possibility of going in a lot of different directions. And so we decided to go into the direction of popular music. For us, the idea of intermundane collaboration is slightly different from the idea of just posthumous production. Mm-hmm. And that was, I think it was making that switch. Or we see something in posthumous duets that is different from merely selling Elvis's back catalog or something like that.
So the intermundane is an extremely broad category that we developed to talk about how worlds come into contact and interpenetrate and create new kinds of contingencies, new kinds of networks. In this particular article, the direction we took it in was towards what we call deadness. So deadness represents a particular patterning of the intermundane. And that's pretty much what the article is about, is how that patterning happens.
Deadness for us is a way to talk about labor, and specifically labor as it is performed by entities that are present and entities that are not present, or were present, or are present in a different way. So a different way to say that is that deadness is a way to talk about the labor, co-labor of living and dead entities. What we were trying to do in this piece is take a close look at what actually happens in the recording studio when someone is making these projects, when different entities are collaborating to make a posthumous duet. Where we're going next? Well, because we were tied, I think, quite closely to analog recording history for the Deadness article, the Unforgettable article, we decided to move forward about 10 years and look at a different recording scenario, which is based more fully in a digital environment.
We're finishing up a chapter, which the chapter that will be the second chapter of the book right now, and it's on a Bob Marley record that was made in 1999. It's called Chant Down Babylon. And this is a very, very important moment in the history of recording, this kind of millennial moment where digital audio production really hits its stride. It's not that there was not digital recording before this, but this is, for example, 1999 was the year that the first track fully produced from start to finish on Pro Tools reached #1. So this is a crucial moment, and we're peering into how the intermundane is created in a digital world, in a fully digital world, or more of a digital world than, say, the world that characterized Unforgettable in 1991 with Natalie and Nat King Cole.
The digital is always messy. In a certain way, you could talk about the recording studio in 1999 as a different kind of intermundane space. That is, people are trying to figure out how to make different pieces of equipment work together with bodies that are present at that moment and bodies that are not present at that moment. Mm-hmm. And digital technologies afford certain possibilities for bodies in the current moment and bodies in a past moment. And those opportunities are slightly different than the possibilities that are afforded by analog technologies.
But the important point is that the analog and the digital are not completely antithetical. They don't, they interpenetrate again in real ways. There are overlaps, in other words, real overlaps between what is possible in the analog studio and what is possible in the digital studio. If you take a celebrity, a superstar like Bob Marley, and you're gonna pull them apart, you wanna put them back together in more or less the same kind of state, because that Bob Marley state, that original state, is what is going to sell records. That's the whole point of making these duets, is to wring ever more capital out of these performers, these superstar performers. So there's something exceedingly important about maintaining an original form. At the same time, you don't want to retain the original form in a way that's too identical, because then you don't have anything that's new. Then you just have the original song.
You have a reissue.
Yeah, you have a reissue. So this is utterly crucial. That it's almost paradoxical that you would want to mutate something that's has tried and true selling potential. You want to tweak it, right? So that it can sell more copies, but at the same time, it has to reference that original recording. The temporal issue is exceedingly important in our theory, and the reason for that is because when you're in the recording studio, it's quite clear that it's not just a linear unfolding. There are all kinds of retrogressions and all kinds of reversions. And this is why we came up with our kind of quirky vocabulary that we utilize in the article. But essentially, the whole project was to trouble the notion that agency is just a here and now operation. We're talking about interpenetrate temporalities that have very, very messy relationships.
Mm-hmm.